Howdy friends, my name is James Willows and I made this video to explore if Bigfoot is really real. I grew up hiking and hunting and trapping and cross-country skiing the wilderness which surrounds Hungry Horse, Montana. Back in the backcountry, just hunting, fishing, having fun, enjoying life, and this is partly why I wasn't ever much a believer in Bigfoot, just because I figured, man, if anybody... Whoa, look at that, this road is closed. Think we'll slip down into there, hon?
No.
No, we'll be okay, babe. Watch this. Woo-ha! If anybody would have seen him, I figured I would have. But I've just come upon too many eyewitness testimonies, even though I haven't. This here is God's country. I'm going to one of my favorite fishing holes, and I got two of my favorite people with me, Les and Mary Jane. Les is starting to look a little like a Sasquatch. Howdy folks, beautiful outdoors here. Whoa, I got a good one. Got a good one. Uh-oh. Although we are not an epicenter of Bigfoot sighting, there have been incidents of local people saying they saw him. At a well-known bar up here in Martin City, a couple guys came in off the logging crew and said, "Whoa, we saw Bigfoot up in the avalanche slide." But I had heard enough tall tales in those establishments that I didn't give that much credibility. I've hiked into the deepest regions of Glacier National Park, places where I had to hike for 6 miles and then blow up a raft and paddle for another 4 miles. I've hiked from Montana clear to Canada. I've seen numerous grizzly bear. I've been charged by a grizzly bear up to within 25 feet, and I felt if anybody would have seen a Bigfoot track, it's me. So I didn't believe, because I felt no matter how elusive they are, they have got to leave tracks. But then my hunting partner of several decades said, "James, I do believe, because my wife and I, we were golfing on Meadow Lake Golf Course in Columbia Falls in the early 90s. And she said, 'Whoa, did you see that? It looked like a bear walking on its hind feet across the fairway.' And he said, 'No, I wasn't looking in that direction.' But being an experienced Native American tracker, he went down into the stream area, immediately followed where the animal went, down into the stream bed. And he saw a large human-like impression with the mud still rising from there where the water had settled into the print. And I thought to myself, whoa, if he believes, this is probably true." I did not doubt him. He's a credible Christian man. But on the other hand, I've heard reports in the national tabloid that Bigfoot was injured and he's at the hospital in Whitefish, Montana, which is 17 miles away. And I checked into it and there was sure no Bigfoot at the hospital. So I really wanted to separate fact from fiction and find out for myself, from my frame of reference, if Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti is actually a true existing creature or not. I felt I had a great platform for this investigation because I run a business called Willows Huckleberry Land, which is a huckleberry jam and pie factory. So I have about 180 guys ranging from young men to experienced mountain men in the woods for me all summer long picking huckleberries. Sometime I'm camping with them, picking myself. I've seen bears as big as Volkswagen bugs, without exaggeration. So I began talking to my huckleberry pickers who are in the mountains as a vocation, 9 to 5. And I began talking with my many customers. And several of them had experiences with Bigfoot. So what I've compiled for you in this video is first my own trek to the epicenter of Bigfoot sightings, Klamath, California, where I went on an extended hike into the actual nucleus of where they have been sighted and found what I felt was a really interesting construction of some kind that could be an ideal place for Bigfoot to hide, and looked like one may have even made it. And then I get into the eyewitness testimonies, which I have compiled for you, which range from entertaining to credible to bone-chilling, goosebump-getting believable. In my search for Bigfoot, I've come here to the California coast. just south of Klamath. So here is a map of the California coast that is most known for Bigfoot sightings, and the concentration is right here south of Klamath. Over 60 people make 8 Bigfoot sightings and find 70 sets of tracks. So I'm thinking this might be an area that would be promising to find some tracks. It's a closed road with a log, so people probably haven't been in there. Here's one of the slugs that this area is rather famous for. This here is called a banana slug. Closed road, log over the road, isolated wilderness area. This looks like a good place to do a search. Right now I'm walking a closed logging road in the heart of Bigfoot country, really looking for tracks at this time. Plenty of spots I could be seeing some tracks. Then again, it's been raining pretty hard. This place is home to some sizable trees. That's about 8 feet across. Another banana slug moving his way stealthily across the street. I heard an unusual noise right up here. It sounded like it might have been a fawn deer, kind of calling out for mom. Look at that interesting growth. It looks like about a 17-foot redwood butt. It's having trees grown out of it. This looks almost like some kind of structure one may have made to stay dry. Let's see. Wow, what if one popped out right there? Oh, it definitely looks like it's had some purposeful construction, but it really is just a giant tree that underneath looked like somebody put some random. Oh wow, look at this. Look at this. It may have not been a Bigfoot, but it definitely looked like some kind of intelligent life put this together. It's quite a nice little dwelling inside here. It's a hollowed out trunk with a lid on it that somebody or something constructed. Do we see any tracks? I was formerly not a believer in Bigfoot because I've hunted so much in Montana. Thousands of miles of hunting and hiking, and I never saw any tracks. Well, I've enjoyed my Klamath, California Bigfoot hunt. It was after a significant rain, so the earth was fresh and the old tracks had been washed off, but I didn't see any. You know, a lot of times with hunting, you get started, you explore areas, you get a sense when you get into a population of any animal, talking to other hunters, doing forays into various areas. It takes a while to locate. And this has not been a successful locate, but it has been an interesting and enjoyable trip in one of the areas near Klamath, California that's most famous for the sightings of the Bigfoot. Woo! Well, I asked the guy working at the store here in Klamath if he'd ever seen a Bigfoot himself or had any experience. He says, no, but I believe in him. There was one seen out by the bridge here about 20 years ago. Well, I'm here near the Klamath Bridge where there was a Bigfoot sighting about 20 years ago. This is the home of the Yurok people, or they're also called the Klamath tribe. As I left the convenience store, I thought to myself, if I'm in a town where most everybody believes, perhaps somebody has seen him. So being a personable guy, I just began to go and ask people if they'd had any experience or seen him. After a number of people, I ran into this Native American fellow who had just got off work as one of the flaggers on construction sites, and he said that he had an experience where he saw him while out fishing. Some people I've showed this to said, man, I can tell he's had a few brews. Well, I could tell too, but I don't necessarily discount the story because of that. Because some of the guys that enjoy the great outdoors, they do enjoy a few brews. So though it's not one of the stories that convinced me the most, I found it interesting, and it did correlate with other stories I've heard in terms of the smell of the animal. Right, here's Mitch Schofield, and he's
Colgrove.
Go ahead and give us your name, sir, and then tell us your story.
Mitch Colgrove.
Nice.
I've seen him in Tishtang, in Hoopa, where I live.
Can you tell us how it happened?
Yeah, we was just up there fishing, and he come running through. We smelled the stink smell. Thought it was a wild bear or a hog with Bigfoot.
Wow, he came running through. Isn't that something?
We were fishing on a creek.
And what creek was it? Do you happen to remember?
Yeah, it's up there in Tishtang.
Tishtang?
Yeah.
Wow. And how tall was he?
Oh man, he was good size. CF12. Yep.
Like 7 feet or something?
Don't forget now, you're my wife.
Yeah, I gotta keep these wives under wraps sometimes.
Yeah, all right.
Wow, I appreciate you telling me your story.
Yeah, man, that was good because it was a long time ago. But we had a lot of sightings.
Yeah, a lot of sightings.
Yeah.
How far away is that from Willow Creek, where you got your the where the plaster cast of the feet are?
Oh, they're right there at the museum, I believe.
But how tall would you say? Would you just guess the animal was?
Oh, geez, man. Good size, about 10 feet at least.
About 10 feet? 9, 10 feet?
9, 10 feet, I don't
know.
It was good size, man.
But
he was all shiny and hairy.
Shiny and hairy?
No, shiny like mink.
Yeah.
Real black and shiny.
Like everybody I've talked to that has seen him says the same thing about the stench.
Yeah.
Just really stinky.
Yeah.
Like I've been a hunter for years.
Like a wild stink boar or bear.
Isn't that something?
Man, it stinks.
Wow. Well, thanks.
Yep.
Appreciate you sharing your... I found Ridge Cogrove's testimony very interesting because he had no incentive to make up a story to impress me. I didn't have some Bigfoot van or Bigfoot hunter t-shirt on. I just looked like a dude on vacation, filming him with my cell phone, shooting the breeze like a couple of guys would. I showed the entire interview from start to finish without cutting it because I thought it might lend to the authenticity of the moment. Now, whether you believe this eyewitness account or you don't, it's historically very interesting because in 1860, in February, a group of guys came after the Wyout Indians with nothing but hatchets, knives, and clubs while they were in festival and mercilessly killed man, woman, child, old person. And the government stepped in after that and took the few that were left and relocated them to the Hoopa Indian Reservation. And there really aren't many of them left. And this individual is one of the few of that tribe that has remained. I did some research about the creek that he referred to and thought, man, where is Kishtang Creek? But actually it's Tishatang Creek that he referred to seeing the Bigfoot at. And there's a lot of interesting history as it pertains to the whole origin of the Bigfoot story regarding this area, because Monday, August 7th, 1958, a gentleman named Jerry Crew left his home, which was in a little hamlet of Sawyer. He was a broad-chested, short-haired, earnest, sober individual, and he drove out past Willow Creek, which was a regional hub for the loggers and lumberjacks. Crew drove through the Hoopa Indian Reservation and turned up on Bluff Creek Road.
And that trek you saw, that was in the Bluff Creek Wilderness. Drew saw his friend William Shorty Wallace and gave a light tap on the horn, and Wallace waved him on through. He went up to where his dozer was parked and there took off his moccasins and traded them for his logging boots. As he got out of his truck and began to mount his dozer, he looked and saw large footprints all around his dozer. He thought, somebody's playing a trick on me. Then he got up on the dozer and looked down and was even more impressed because they had a beginning, an end, and a destination. Then he and William Shorty Wallace and some of the other guys converged and thought, what in the heck is this? Is this some kind of practical joke or what? And they began talking, and they dubbed whatever made those tracks Bigfoot, because obviously he had a big foot. And as the men gathered and looked at the prints and began talking and just exchanging stories, they exchanged stories of a similar sighting up around Wallace, and then they began talking about on a nearby logging trail sub-road, there was some vandalism of logging equipment that occurred with these giant footprints all around it. One of the incidents was that a 500-pound barrel of diesel was picked up and thrown down into this vegetated gully. There was no disturbance of anything walking down there, but the diesel barrel appeared to have been thrown by the large creature, which made the 19-inch tracks all around there. As a very strong football player, my 208-pound son power cleaned 380 pounds. That's the same motion that would have been necessary for the Bigfoot to power clean this diesel tank and heave it into the gully. I think they were protecting their homeland. And the loggers continued to speak of another incident nearby where a 750-pound skidder tire was taken, carried off by the same animal that left the big prints and also chucked down into the gully. Jerry was just too taken back by these huge footprints and got some plaster and made some of the 19-inch casts that are still in the Willow Creek Sasquatch Museum to this day. The Humboldt County paper took an interest to the story and documented and wrote it up with pictures of Jerry and his large footprint. And as they say, the rest is history. A legend was begun called Bigfoot. What's your name again, sir?
Charles Tenorio.
Tenorio?
Tenorio? Hi, Mom.
Hey, this is James Willows here with Charles Tenorio. In my business here, I'm always talking to lots of customers, and one of my little curiosities has been lately if Bigfoot exists. And I've had some amazing stories from some of my customers. And Charles here had an incident where an animal that was vertical in nature crossed ahead of his truck. He looks like a trucker. Are you a trucker, Charles? Yeah, Charles is a trucker, and they go thousands of miles a year, so they could very well see something. So tell us what took place there, Charles.
About 2012, probably early part, passing by the Little Bighorn in Montana. And as I explained earlier, I've seen just about every type of animal out there, and aside from a wolf, of course, but this was no wolf. And it passed in front of my truck, but right outside of my headlights to illuminate it. But you could still see the silhouette of it because the sun was going down. And during that time, the light plays tricks on you. So I thought maybe it was a trick. But the way this thing ran across, it was on its 2 feet, but it looked like it was uncomfortable running. It didn't look like it was set up for speed or anything like that. It was really weird, but like 3 or 4 strides and it was gone. And I hit the brakes. Like I said, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but yeah, I got goosebumps right away when I saw that.
Wow, isn't that something?
Yeah. Like I said, I can't confirm that it was or it wasn't, but I've seen moose, I've seen large elk, I've seen, mule deer, I've seen them all. But
one of the gals that told me a story from the reservation in Washington that's famous for Bigfoot sightings, Sasquatch sightings, told me that her sighting, the animal crossed the county road in 2 strides. And did it seem like it took quite a bit of territory per stride?
Well, yeah, it was a 2-lane road. Probably about 3, maybe.
About 3 strides across the 2-lane road. Could you tell anything about size, how tall it may have been?
No, not from a big truck's perspective, because we sit up high.
Yeah.
But like I said, it wasn't a small animal, and you know, I was even telling my wife, if that was a bear, what was he doing on his hind legs? And the way it was running, I don't know how to describe how it was almost like it was an uncomfortable run, like a large walk if you were to try to step over a puddle or something like that. That's the way it was.
Interesting.
It's really weird.
Interesting. Was that a fairly remote area?
Well, I would say yes. Down on the side road of Montana.
Interesting. I really appreciate your sharing your story with us, Charles, as we're trying to discover if this is an actual reality or it's just a myth. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. This is Vern, my milkman, and we were just chatting over lunch here, and he was sharing a couple of stories of a friend of his that encountered Bigfoot.
Years ago, there was a kid that lived across the field from me. His name was Jerry, and into trapping, all the fishing outdoor stuff. And when he got older, he would take day hikes up to Mount Rainier in Washington State. Well, one day he decided he was going in for a few days to go fishing and do his stuff. And the story was told to me that Bigfoot had walked off the side of the hill and right onto the game trail that he was walking up, within 20 feet of him.
Oh.
It didn't do anything, didn't make a sound. It turned and just went up the trail ahead of him, and within just seconds it was past the ridge and over and gone. So the strides must have been really spaced out.
Yeah.
Jerry said when I got told the story, I had to ask Jerry, and all he could tell me is he'd never seen this animal before in his life in all the years that he hunted out there. He wasn't going to be 100% definite on that he was going to call it a Bigfoot, but he couldn't tell you what it was, but it was 7 to 8 foot tall and covered in hair. And when he seen it, it looked at him, it went up the hill on the trail, and he turned around and left. And so that was his story.
Did he say anything about the big strides?
He said it wasn't very long before, it didn't take him long to cover 50 yards and up and over.
You know, I had an Indian gal here in the store, and she encountered seeing one in Washington, and she said it crossed the road in 2 bounds.
Yeah, I would say, if they're that tall,
2 strides.
If they're 7 to 8 foot tall, their strides are so far out. I mean, they're probably 5 to 6 foot strides.
Yeah.
They can cover some ground quickly. I have a friend who's a sergeant with the Sheriff's Department in Washington State.
What's his name?
His name is Eddie Anderson. And he said when he was younger, him and his uncle was going up hunting. And they were over by Mount Adams, Washington, south of Rainier. And he said, and they came into this rock slide area. He says, and there's a creek running down the middle. He said it was just all big boulders for as far as you could see both sides. He says, and down at the creek was this big black thing. He said, and all of a sudden it stood up. He says, it didn't look like a bear to me. He says, but I was 12. He says, and within just a few seconds, he says, it was gone. He says, I never seen where it went. There was no trees close by, but it was just gone. He says, he goes, I swear it could have been a Bigfoot. He says, I never could really tell, but it did stand up on its back on the legs. And he says, from the distance it was big.
Well, that testimony we just heard from the guy in California, he said it was black as well. The one he saw was black and shiny like a mink.
Yeah, Ed never said anything about if it's shiny, but at 12 years old, trying to retell the story when you're in your 40s.
Yeah.
But he goes, I do think they're out there. And Ed's a very hard hunter. He does a lot of cougar hunting with his hounds and bear hunting, and he spends a lot of times in the woods.
Go ahead and tell me again about that. Your brother-in-law in jail with the guy.
Years ago, in probably about 84, my brother-in-law ended up in jail for drinking and driving. Well, while he was sitting in jail that night, this guy got arrested for poaching elk, and the game wardens had brought him into the sheriff's department to the jailhouse, and he was standing in the jail cell screaming about seeing Bigfoot and that it was going to get him and all this stuff. And the game warden walked up to him, grabbed him by his shirt, slammed him into the bar and said, if you don't shut your blankety blank mouth, you're going to disappear. The guy sat down, never said another word. My brother-in-law was just sitting there dumbfounded that this game warden would tell this to a guy. And he never understood until the next day when he kind of sobered up what was really going on. The guy had to see a Bigfoot. And the game department knew about him and just told him to keep his mouth shut.
And what year was this?
About 84.
And where did this take place?
Lewis County, Washington, right next to Mount St. Helens.
Ah, interesting.
Yep, right. It wasn't very long after it had erupted, so I'm sure it probably moved some of them out of their natural habitat into other areas. Theory, did the government make Bigfoot? You think of all the DNA testing on animals they've done, could they have created this? But then on the other hand, the Indians have been painting these things on rocks for over 1,000 years. So where'd they come from? Are they a creature from outer space that come from a planet that was going to be destroyed and they decided to come to Earth? I mean, there's so many UFO sightings. Maybe they traveled here 2,000 years ago. But on the other hand, God did create all the creatures on this planet. So this could be something that's just eluded everybody. Makes
you know
think.
what I find, Vern, is a lot of the Native American people are the ones who see them. A disproportionate proportion of my interviews have been with Native American people.
Yeah, you look at the ones on the Washington and up on Alaskan coastlines who's painted them, who's had them on their wall for the last 600-700 years before white men have ever seen them.
One of the gals that told me about seeing one in here said that on her reservation, the Bigfoot will come in and steal babies.
I've heard about that. Down in Oregon, there was a show that talked about that.
Isn't that something?
And different people. There's a really good film where the guy from Oregon has one, and I think it was in 82 or 84, and I think it was on These Woods Are Haunted on the Travel Channel, where he shows an actual complete 100% clear video of Sasquatch within 40 yards of him walking.
So
that
in the 70s, early and mid 70s, where I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, did a lot of hiking up in the woods of the Cascade Mountain ranges, and a couple friends of mine that were a little older, the guys that I grew up with, were brothers. They spent a week in the woods in the Cascades, and they said they were stopping. It was dusk. They were leaning on either side of the trail, and they heard something in the woods, and this big something or other walked across the trail, looked at them, and kept going. And it was on its hind legs, whatever it was. It wasn't like anything they ever saw. They got this really cold, creepy feeling, hairs up on their arms, and they just looked at each other and just sat there for about 40 minutes without moving. And then they got up and moved, and when we thought they were joking when we were kids, just trying to scare us. But a few years ago I was home and I asked about the story, and he kind of got this weird look on his face and said, yeah, it happened, don't know what it was, but you can take it for what it's worth.
Did he give any idea about how big it was?
Taller. Mark was 6'2", and he said it was at least a foot taller than he was.
Wow, and where was that at exactly?
It was in the Cascade Range, probably on the Pacific Crest Trail.
Nice. Well, we appreciate you sharing your story.
Anytime.
So in all of my searching, I've never seen him yet for myself, but my original skepticism was based on never seeing a track. And then I was cross-country skiing with my son up on Big Mountain in Whitefish. It was snowing heavily, and there was about 5 inches of fresh snow on it, but we saw what was a track about that long that was 7 feet apart from each other. And it was rather interesting, and when I told people, they said, oh, that's probably them people that snowshoe up there. There's a lot of people that use those little snowshoes and snowshoe up around Big Mountain, but I thought, how are they stretching their stride out 7 feet? So that was kind of an interesting thing for me to see. Howdy folks, we're just kind of shooting the breeze with some of the guys that did my parking lot, and here we're talking with Chris Frito, and Chris had a crazy girlfriend that said she saw Bigfoot. Now, we've all had crazy girlfriends that said they saw different stuff, but we're going to hear the true version from Chris Frito.
Yeah, I had this crazy girlfriend one time. I'm not going to mention no names.
That's probably why.
But they used to live down on the Flathead River down there, and they had this old barn that she claimed that she'd seen Bigfoot and one of its babies that used to enter and exit the barn frequently.
Frequently?
Frequently.
Wow, did she give any idea of the size of how big he was?
No, she didn't give no size, but she'd always wander off and be crazy girlfriend. And she'd have tracks down by the river. She used to go down the river all the time, and I didn't know if it was like real or an obsession, but she claimed she's seen it.
And she also claimed that she'd seen the tracks down there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, I was telling the guys here that when we were canoeing as young people, there was a very unexpected, strange explosion, like a huge rock being dropped into the water when we were camping on some of those islands there. And I don't know, it was a little bit creepy, but we never did figure out what it was. I'm not saying it's a Bigfoot. Well, great, thanks. And is your name spelled like the chip?
That's W-E-T-O. Frito.
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 Well, he's a heck of a good hand there. You got this, Chris. He could really run that stuff on there.
He's a good sealer.
He's a good sealer. So you never
Jim
know.
makes a good burger. You're a Huckland burger.
Nice. Thanks, Chris.
And when Chris told the story of his crazy girlfriend seeing one going in and out of their barn in the lower Flathead region, it brought to mind the creepy story I mentioned on the video, and I'll tell you the specifics of that. So my best friend Jay and I were canoeing from West Glacier to Big Fork. The first night we stopped at Blankenship. The second night we stopped upriver from Kalispell. But then after eating, we wanted to go a little further, so we went downriver from Kalispell. And as it was getting dark, we pulled into the spookiest island. It was just a kind of a spooky place because it had really big cottonwood trees. And there was a foggy mist surrounding it. And we pulled up into a little finger inlet that went toward the island with our canoe. Now those islands are remote. Not too many people even go to them. We beached the canoe and set up our sleeping bags without making a fire because it was already pretty late. I lay there in my sleeping bag for probably 50 minutes. Something was giving me the heebie-jeebies because I just felt like I was being watched. And finally I said to Jay, are you sleeping? He said, no, something's giving me the creeps about this place. And then as we were still laying there, kind of having the creeps already, then there was a huge curse flash in the finger inlet next to us. And I thought, whoa, what in the world was that? Now, Jay and I, we were some pretty tough young guys. I was probably 13, 14 at the time. Jay was 2 years older. He was a good wrestler. I was a boxer. We'd both done some street fighting together. This was before my conversion to Christ. One time we were at the South Fork Inn in Martin City, and a crazy Indian named McCurdy came screaming out of the bar with a 2.5-foot pipe. He was coming after us, and Jay just waded right in, grabbed him, and we took away the pipe, and we were all right. But he was a fearless guy. And yet, when I heard the splash, I said to him, Jay, did you hear that? He said, I sure did. What was that anyway? I've never heard a sound like that in my life. It was much bigger than a beaver tail splashing. I said, should we leave? And he said, no, we don't want to be on the river in the dark. So we just laid there, a little bit freaked, unable to sleep. And after about an hour, another kersplash. No rustling, no other sounds, just a kersplash. Because I never took the idea of Sasquatch seriously at all, I totally ruled that out. But the next day we looked around the mud
in the Finger Inlet, but we didn't see any sign of tracks, of beaver tracks, of really anything. And to this day, I'm really mystified at what that could have been. But could it have been that in that same region that this woman was seeing tracks was the Bigfoot, and that they just chucked a giant boulder into the stream to scare us off from their place? It could have been, because a lot of times what I'm finding with this research is that where there has been a supposed sighting, there's other freaky things that are going on around that area. And told him that my hunting buddy's wife had seen one going across Meadow Lake Golf Course in the early 90s. Because he said, you know, other people have told me they've seen something out by the old aluminum plant. And then that time that I was up on Big Mountain and saw the tracks that were 6.5 feet apart and big like a small snowshoe, that's in that same region. So it makes me believe that in certain regions where there's been a lot of sightings, tracks, different things like this, that there's probably a certain amount of true stories and probably a certain amount of false stories, but there may be something to it. So here I am speaking with another customer that was not a believer in Bigfoot, but was up looking for bear in Glacier Park, and she saw something on 2 feet run across the clearing. So we're going to hear from Alexandra Meza.
So I was out looking for bear at Glacier National Park, and the road currently is closed about 12 miles in. I'm going to the Sun Road, and as we were pulled over on the side across Lake McDonald, there's a mountain, and I was looking out into the mountains where there's trees and everything. There's a clearing somewhere in the trees, and I saw something run across. I probably saw it for maybe 1 or 2 seconds, probably 3-4 steps at most, and it was running on 2 legs. It wasn't like a bear. I thought it was a bear because of the color.
Yeah.
It had like brown fur all over. And then I turned over to my sister who's in the passenger side, and I said, I think I just saw a bear. And I started thinking about it, and I ended up Googling, do bears run on 2 feet? And they don't. They can stand on 2 feet, but they don't. So then I started thinking, did I just see Bigfoot? But I don't believe in Bigfoot, so I wondered if there was a trail up there or something that people run on, because there's trails all over the park.
Yeah.
But the odd thing would be, are they running like a full suit? Like it's all fuzzy and brown, and it's just crazy because I'm pretty sure I saw it. My binoculars, they have 20 times zoom, so I saw it really clear. It was a creature. Wow. It was tall, probably about 6 to 7 feet tall, which made me think it was a human at first.
Yeah.
But the
Because
color
it didn't give the appearance of being ginormous, like bigger than a big man, or did it?
Yeah, like a very, probably like tall as a basketball player. I'd say like, you know, Shaq size. Like people can be that tall, but not average. It's not like average height.
Isn't that something?
Yeah,
Shaq size, that's something. And she was saying that it was about the color of this. Go ahead and point that out to us again, if you would, please.
Yeah, it was like it had a slight orange hue, just like this, like dark brown.
Dark brown, but a little bit orangish.
Just like this.
Yeah. And did you get a look at all at the face?
No, it was running sideways. And you actually have a shirt out here that looks like a man running, like barefoot. Like Bigfoot, barefoot man. And that's kind of what it looked like. Just long arms and everything. And I really thought it was a bear, because that's our goal. We've been going to like 3 national parks trying to find bears.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, but I doubt that it was, and I really think it was, you know, Bigfoot.
That is really something. Did anybody else see any glimpse of it?
No, everyone was pointed at different places trying to see if we could spot a bear. It was there maybe 3 seconds. It disappeared behind some trees.
It was like running?
It was running.
Did it look like it was running with a nice gait, a nice even gait, or was it like awkward running?
It was awkward running, because it was kind of almost hunched over a bit.
You know, the people I've interviewed that said they've seen what they thought could have been Bigfoot said that he ran kind of with an awkwardness, not like he was really set up for running that well. Mm-hmm. And also my hunting buddy's wife, who said she saw it, she thought it was a bear walking on 2 feet, because, you know, your mind's not programmed for seeing a Bigfoot. So what are you thinking now? How long ago was this?
This was maybe an hour ago.
Oh, just an hour ago. So what's going through your mind? You know, you said you
I don't
didn't
know.
believe in
I didn't
Bigfoot.
believe in it, and now I'm swearing up and down that I saw Bigfoot.
Isn't that something?
That's crazy.
Wow. Well, that's awesome. Anything else you'd like to add about the creature?
I guess it's time to start believing because it's crazy. This is the pose that I was talking about, hunched over, except it was running and it was facing forward, so I didn't see his face. It was just all hair.
Wow. Did it look like he had a good physique, like he was a buff dude, or kind of
like a really big creature.
Wow. Could you see a big chest on him, or did he have a belly? Or
Big chest, no belly. It was slim.
wow.
Yeah.
You know, it was probably slim because of the winter that it's just been through. Probably extra slim. Isn't that something? Right in Glacier Park toward the end, huh? Up there in a clearing.
Toward the end, right when we're about to turn around. Yeah.
Isn't that something? So right now, if you had money to bet, would you bet that it was a Bigfoot that you probably saw?
Yes.
Isn't that
I think
something?
so. I really do think so.
That is amazing.
It is.
And you seem like a really credible person. You know, you seem like a level-headed person. What do you do for a living?
I am actually an insurance adjuster.
Yeah.
So whenever there's big losses and stuff, I go out and look at homes that have been damaged and stuff like that.
Wow, you seem like a real credible, sober person. This is really amazing to me.
I'm sober, yeah.
Wow. Are you looking through your binoculars or just with the naked eye?
No, binoculars.
Some pretty good ones, or?
Yes. Actually, if you wait a second, I can go get them. So I actually saw with these binoculars, just got them recently.
Yeah.
They were almost about $100. It is 20 times zoom with 50 times magnification.
Yeah.
So you really can see clearly up that mountain and everything.
And so you can see it pretty clearly, huh?
And we were pulled over and we were stopped, so it's not like it was blurred or anything. I know what I saw. I saw it super clear, and it was definitely there. Probably 3 seconds, but it was there.
And that Sister Hera was in the same car, and what did she do when she thought she saw the Bigfoot?
I didn't believe her at first. I was like, you're lying. And then she's like, I swear to God, there's something up there. So I started looking myself for it, and I actually thought that it was over here, but I couldn't see anything. Up there, but I couldn't see anything, so I gave up. I was like,
Yeah, she didn't see it at all.
Oh, you didn't see it at all, but
Yeah,
but
so-
what was she doing? Was she like
So-
freaking out at all, or?
so stare at that mountain for like a good 5 minutes.
Yeah, because she was pretty sure.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
like, I know there's something over
I stayed
there.
up there, yeah, probably a little bit longer, because I swore I saw something. I turned to her, I was like, I think I just saw Bigfoot.
And
Either
she
that or
didn't really
something.
believe you.
No,
But
she
you
didn't
said
believe
you
me.
swear on your niece or something?
Yeah, and then I said, Mom was religious, so I said, I swear on my niece's life that
Yeah.
I saw Bigfoot. And Mom was like, don't swear on them. That's fine, we'll believe you, but don't swear on that. That's how sure I was.
Wow. So what do you think now? Do you think that she really saw Bigfoot? Knowing her? Is she an
now
honest
that-
person?
Yes, I think so.
Wow.
So my sister was telling me that she does believe in Bigfoot because there's this Bible story about Cain and Abel, and it's two brothers where one brother killed the other brother out of greed or something like that. And she was telling me that God condemned, was it Cain?
Cain.
Cain. God
Yeah.
condemned Cain for the rest of eternity or something like that.
Until his second.
Until God's
His
second
second
return.
Yeah.
To roam the earth, like.
And
basically
nobody
would-
can hunt him or harm him.
Yeah,
at all.
basically he
Yeah.
can't die. He's just roaming the earth. She was telling me about that.
I was like, that's Cain.
She was like, that's that.
Personally, what I think this is a reclusive animal that there's not many of them. Maybe there's 2,000 to 4,000 of them in the United States, and they're the world's champion hide and seek. Well, this is just really amazing to me also because I didn't believe in Bigfoot at all because I've gone so many miles hiking in Montana, and I figured if anybody would have seen a track, it's me. But then I began talking to customers like you, and I had several of them that said that they've seen Bigfoot for sure. One of them, the most convincing, it was wild. This gal, I believe her name was Mary, from Washington, from a lake over there that's well known for sightings of Bigfoot. And she and her grandma and a couple others were in a minivan just kind of parked by the lake there, and they saw the Bigfoot come out from the lake and cross the county road in only 2 steps and go up I said, wow, was it big? And she said, you better believe it was big to cross the county road in 2 strides. And then her grandmother called just after she told me, and she said, wow, I just told this store owner here about when we saw the Sasquatch. And she said, right when she said that, her mother got chills up and down her whole body because it was terrifying. He was a big and a terrifying creature.
Because I was zoomed in all the way on the mountain.
Yeah.
And right when I saw it, it like left my vision. And you know, you're with binoculars, you only have a certain amount of vision before you gotta move.
Yeah.
So it left my vision. I took it off. I tried to see with my bare eyes, but I couldn't see anything. I went back up there, it had disappeared, just like that.
Wow.
Timeline of where we drove. Here's as far up as you can go on Lake McDonald, and you can see where we actually ended up turning around.
Yes.
And it was right around here where you're looking out onto these mountains where I saw something almost up along the ridge, about 3/4 of the way up.
Oh, okay, so you were looking across the lake.
Across the lake.
Yes, and there's kind of been a burn back in there, right?
Yes, some of the trees were bare, yeah.
Yeah, and it was up on that ridge there.
Up on this ridge somewhere right here, yes.
Wow, isn't that something? It makes it a lot more believable when you showed me where you thought you saw it, because at first I know that country and I thought, whoa, that area around Lake McDonald on that side, it's super thick. I don't see how she saw anything going through a clearing. But when you say that you were looking onto the other side, it's really believable, because there was a fire a couple of years ago in that district, and it's open and you can kind of see what's happening, and it's a prime habitat for bear, or really just about anything. There's great berries, there's mushrooms, there's animals, good squatching. So you guys are from Houston, and you guys have been looking for bear in several national parks?
Yes. So we couldn't see any at the Rocky Mountains. Then we drove all the way to Yellowstone. Then we came over here because this was like our last resource to see moose and bear. So
Yeah,
hopefully we're going to Washington tomorrow.
and that's what you were doing when she saw the Bigfoot, is looking for bear. You've been
Correct.
kind of parking and looking in places where you were hoping to see bear?
Yes, we almost drove all the way to Canada.
Wow, isn't that something? Well, thanks so much for sharing your story. We appreciate that. Well, this is the next morning after Alexandra's sighting of the Bigfoot. And after sleeping on it, my friends, I am sure that she saw the Bigfoot. As you can tell, I'm probably a little skeptical in nature, and even during that amazing interview, I was asking her sister, what do you think? Do you think she was truthful? But after I slept on it, I thought, are you kidding? This lady is somebody who did not believe in Bigfoot, who is an insurance adjuster, whose job is to go out and assess and sort out fact from fiction. And she says, I saw Bigfoot. I believe her. So tomorrow, I am going out with my canoe, with my gear, to search the area. She showed me on Google Maps the exact area where she saw the Bigfoot. I would love to do it today, but I can't. Today I have my, wow, look at that, the breast's coming out. Today I have my business to run. I don't have enough help today. So I'll be going tomorrow when I have an extra employee coming into Huckland. As it is, I am up at 6 a.m. getting ready to make another 100 huckleberry pies. Well, friends, history has just been made. On June 8 at 5 p.m., Alexandra Mesa saw Bigfoot in the western region of Glacier National Park and reported it to me at my business Willows Huckland in Hungry Horse, Montana. This will go down as a historic sighting in Montana. Won't it, Lester? That's right. So Alexandra's sighting yesterday was really an answer to prayer for me, because the most convincing key piece that I had for this documentary was about 2 or 3 years ago when I was just beginning to believe, and I met a Native American gal in my store and asked her, you know, have you ever had any experience of Bigfoot or anything? I know you come from that area. She said, boy, did I. My grandmother and I were picking up some kids near the lake that's well known for the Bigfoot sightings on our reservation. And the Sasquatch itself came out of the lake area, crossed the county road that was right in front of our minivan in 2 strides, went up on the hill, looked at us for a moment, and then disappeared. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty amazing story. And I could see the truthfulness in her face, just as I did in Alexandra's face yesterday. And so I asked her some more about the tribal lore involving the Sasquatch in her Native American reservation. She said, well, in the old days, the people would protect their teepees because there had been incidents of the Sasquatch coming into camp and stealing babies. And I thought, whoa, that's pretty amazing. And right then her phone rang. Her phone rang, and it was the exact grandmother she had been with. And so she told her, Grandma, I just told this store owner about the time that we saw the Sasquatch near such and such lake. And she said that when she told her grandmother that, her grandmother said she got chills, goosebump chills around her whole body, because for her grandmother, it was a terrifying event. It was not a nice little fuzzy friendly event. It was terrifying because the creature was very, very large and crossed the county road in just 2 strides. And so I wrote all of her information down in one of my sales books that any of you who have come to my place see that we write the sales in. And yet I scoured those 3 or 4 notebooks and I could not find it. So I was praying, Lord, please help me find this. I'd like to finish this documentary. But in his typical do more than you ask or think way, instead of that, God sent Alexandra into my place yesterday, 1 hour after she saw the Bigfoot in Glacier National Park. And for me, that was a real answer to prayer. And for them, they felt it was a real divine appointment because her mother had just an uncanny draw to go to our gift shop. She knew that she saw something running with that unusual gait, and she Googled, do bears run on 2 feet? And she really needed to talk to me to kind of settle some things in her own mind. Well, you seeing anything up on that hillside, Joel?
Yeah, I'm seeing some like regular wildlife like deer, eagles.
Nice.
Few critters.
Well, we didn't see the Bigfoot yet, but we saw this customer. Well, we're heading out to check where she saw the animal at.
That way, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, Joel, one of the reasons I really feel this woman's story is credible is because this park was closed for at least 4 months because of the virus. Yeah. And the day she saw the Bigfoot was the first day that it opened. So what a perfect refuge for an animal that usually has to be very secretive and in hiding than a closed national park. But she caught him by surprise the first day that it opened. And it was a very rainy day. By what she described to me, I believe where we are looking at, where she was looking at, is right up in either right there or right there. So that's where we're headed. These lush slopes are really rich with wildlife and vegetation. It seems to me a perfect spot. Yeah. Well, this is sure some beautiful country, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why don't we stop here for a minute and I'll scope it out with the binocs and you take that spotting scope and see what you can see. There's some white things up there. It may be the mountain goat.
There's a whitetail straight forward right there.
Nice. Can you tell if it's a buck or a doe?
I just see its back part.
Sweet. Got good eyes.
We got us a frog right here.
Joel and I are about 80 feet apart here, just looking for tracks as we go. We are seeing various animal tracks. We're just looking for you know what kind of tracks. There's a beautiful natural totem pole. Marks the spot. Not really. Look at the size of that track. My guess is a moose. You can see the water in this log from the recent deluge. It was really raining the day it opened. This branch got dislodged from its spot. These fern are good eating. The Koreans call it gosari. Wild raspberry. One can hear a nice brisk stream down there. That's always a plus when considering animal habitat. We're gonna have to stay a little closer together up on top because it's prime grizz country. Yeah. I think the clearing she referred to is either there or right up here. Beautiful eagle looking over something. Well, Joel, what's your summary after looking over all this country?
Well, this is a mighty nice country. It's got fresh water rolling down the mountains. It's clear. The fire burnt everything clear where we could see right through the thicket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of tracks did you see, do you think?
I seen elk or deer, and I did see bear tracks because they were
Really?
wide. They were, you know,
Nice.
pretty much that's what I saw.
Nice.
Well, Joel and I hiked clear up to the top here, where I believe Alexandra pointed out that the animal was at, in this clearing here. And I didn't see any tracks. We were doing like we do when we hunt, get 80 feet, 100 feet apart and look for tracks. I saw plenty of moose tracks, I saw elk tracks, I saw deer tracks.
This is a mean bear track right here. It's a wide one.
That is a wide one. Look at that, and then it continues on. Wow, that disturbed some ground there. Look at that. That is a large track. Where does it go from there, Joel?
We came up this way.
It's almost like it turned back uphill or something. That is a sizable disturbance of soil right there, I'm telling you, and we didn't make it. Okay, friends, let me tell you immediately what just happened. First of all, Joel really did see some big bear tracks? Or could it be the bear that walks uprightly tracks? We did see some big old tracks, but in my business, God has blessed me with a few good men. We don't need an army to guarantee a win. We just need a few good men. And so my wife and Tiara graciously gave us the morning off, but we had a little slow start, and we ended up on the mountain, up on the ridge at about 12:30. And so we knew it would be getting busy. So we were really hoofing it coming out of there. And Joelle was filming me as I was boogieing on down the mountain. And when I saw the clip, I just couldn't resist making it look like I was running from a bear. The bear tracks were real. I was not running from a bear. We were just trying to get back to Huckleberry Land. This is where I live right here. Isn't it awesome? There is an eagle's nest, a bald eagle's nest right there.
The Park Service does a good job managing everything here. When this fire started, a lot of people wanted them to put it out, but look what a beautiful place it's created for wildlife and vegetation.
Let me tell you of this feeling words just can't explain. She's a sterling silver lady with gold dust in her veins. She's gentle like a baby, she's wild like desire. She's a lady called Montana. Lord, she's ice and then she's fire. From the plains of the Powder River to the mountains of Columbia Falls, it would take you 15 lifetimes to ever see it all. She scares me when I'm with her, but without her I would sigh. She's a lady called Montana, brings a teardrop to my eye.
Some kind of large track. It could almost be as large as a Sasquatch. Look at this baby here. There's that one, there's this one, and then it goes on over to here. There's another one of those rather big impression set. Now there's an unusual track, look at that. It almost looks like toes went in there. And here, that's big, that's big. Something made some big tracks. Those are considerable.
Yeah.
Probably good enough, we gotta keep going, but yeah, that was
Keep on
interesting.
rolling.
Those are some big tracks, aren't they?
Yeah.
Big tracks.
Here's an unusual stone with a hole in it. Look at that.
There's another impressive track. Could be the 2 feet of something together, but that would be big enough to be a Bigfoot. Let's see what else there is here. There's the next step. Probably an elk with the 2 feet being together. Well, it's definitely a lush area that has a lot of wildlife. I just saw where about 3 or 4 elk went through. Wow, without using a GPS, I did pretty good. I landed myself right back at the canoe. There and back again. Well, we had us a good hike up that mountain. And up on top when we gave the report, I didn't have anything special to report in terms of tracks, but on the way down, I found that set that was actually very interesting. It was definitely a large mammal, having a big track, about yay big. Well, now a little more canoeing. I love canoeing. I've taken, when I was young, we'd take our Coleman canoe down the middle fort, class 4 rapids, and people thought we were crazy, and we were. Well, it's a good thing we're getting back when we are, John. Well, it's getting a little bit rough out here. I've been on this lake with 2-foot whitecap. Lake became a little rough on the return voyage. She's gentle like a baby. She's wild like desire. She's a lady called Montana. Lord, she's ice and man, she's fire. And finally, friends, I'm really trying to make a positive difference in my world with my YouTube channel. So if you could hit subscribe and put on the notification bell, I would appreciate it. Well, friends, after researching the